Okay, good. So we're about halfway in. So one of the challenges we have when someone is mean to us, raise your hand if someone's ever been mean to you. Okay, cool. Raise your hand if you've ever been mean to somebody. Someone you love, right? Why is that? Good, put your hands down. Thank you for your honesty. That's right. And come back. Come back. So this is something we all deal with every day. The very first program I did of this program 4 or 5 years ago was at an intermediate school. And I did the program, and then like 3 years later, I got a call from a woman, and it turned out it was the principal of that school. And she was having real issues with the superintendent and the school board. She felt they were bullying her, and the tests, and all the things that had to happen, and she was really feeling a lot of stress and anxiety. And I taught her these same techniques. So these are things I've taught them to peak performance athletes. I had a full scholarship baseball player from Syracuse University who could not throw the ball from second base or from shortstop to first base. He could do everything else, but that one thing, he had a glitch. It's called the Chuck Knobloch syndrome. And so he came and worked with me, and the same thing, he felt literally like he was being bullied by this thing that suddenly had to happen to him, but he didn't realize that his mind is a powerful, powerful tool. So I want to teach you guys a couple of things that I teach pretty much everybody everywhere I go and that I use every single day. You ready? It's simple, but it's profound. Everybody stand up. Cool. Now, you got to face me. And what I want you to do is we're going to breathe in a certain way. I'm not a good drawer. I got to have a little hair there. What I want you to do is you're going to take a breath in up the backs of your legs, up your spine, over the top of your head, and you're going to swirl the breath for a count of 5 in front of your forehead. Don't do it yet because I want to do it with you. So it's going to be, and then you're going to release down the front of your body, and then you're going to swirl in front of your toes, and then you're going to take the next breath in up the back of your spine. So let's try that. Everybody breathe in and down. Now you don't have to make the hand motion because when someone is in your face, you're not going to go, although that might actually be a distraction. It might cause them to to not get it, but they might make more fun of you, or they might think you're making fun of them. But I'm just kind of showing you. And release. Okay? So this is part 1. And the next time you're in a game or before a test or have one of those difficult conversations, and this applies to all of us adults as well, use this breath. I also use it on airplanes because it's an energizing breath. If you're feeling tired, you can use this to energize yourself. Now, part 2 is I want you to imagine that you have roots down through the bottom of your feet, kind of like in the Lord of the Rings. The Ent people, the tree people, that kind of have those feet root things. Their feet are like roots. So I want you to imagine grounding into the earth, solid like a rock, and kind of bend your knees just a little bit. All right? You don't have to do a squat. Just bend them a little bit. Just so you're kind of springy yet grounded. Okay? So do the breath. Release. Swirl in front of your toes and bring it up. And down, okay? Now the third piece is from an ancient culture in Mexico, the Toltecs. And they discovered that if they were under deep stress and emotional turmoil, an emotional storm, if they looked around or rolled their eyes, they would be able to stay calm. Now, when you're talking to someone, you can't kind of roll your eyes because they'll go, why is this guy rolling his eyes at me? But you can look up, look around. And the reason this works is because when you look up, you're accessing the visual part of your brain. When you're looking to either side, you're accessing your auditory part of your brain, which makes sense because your ears are here, right? And if you're looking down, you're accessing your emotions and your feelings. And I noticed when I learned this, wow, I spent most of my life walking around looking down, in constant contact with my emotions. Well, I'm a songwriter. I'm a poet. I deal with emotions. So I would get stuck in emotions. But when I roll my eyes, and it doesn't have to be in any order, you can look up, you can look down, you can over, just look around, that will help you stay calm. And why do we want to stay calm when someone's being mean to us? Anybody? Yeah? So you don't snap and start a fight. Because we have, literally, you guys have a seat right now. We'll play with this again in a little bit. You want to do this because when we go into fear or fight, all of the resources of our magnificent brain gets pulled away from reason and logic into literally kind of our animal brain, our mammal brain, or our lizard brain. It's the triune brain theory, if you want to research it, guys, in the back, if you want to have something to write a paper about. The triune brain theory. Our conscious rational mind is a much later addition to our brain, because what kept us alive is the ability to either run or fight. And if a lion's coming at you, you don't have to go, let me see now, there's a very large feline animal coming towards me at a high rate of speed with a very open mouth and very large teeth hanging out of the mouth. I wonder if that's dangerous. Right? We didn't have time for that. Our ancestors who dealt with lions had to know immediately, and they had to not think, they had to react. But in today's world, reacting gets us in trouble. Reacting can get us hurt. Or even worse, we could end up hurting the other person. Or we could both get hurt, and that would be bad. So when you take a moment to breathe, ground and look around, then you can do the next thing, all right? So I want you to try this. It's kind of tricky to try, but I think it will help you. And I have some other stuff that I can give you at my website for free. I have a very cool technique called the Spanish Wall, which can be very useful for all of you, and I recommend it for the adults as well. And you can go to markshepard.com and get that. There's a little tab that says the Bully-Proof Teen. So if there's anything I leave out, there's a bunch of stuff there for you as a resource. So, and I have some free songs for you there as well. But here's the next piece. Let's say someone calls me a sissy, right? Let's say Bill called me a sissy. Let's use some sound effects to make this a little more fun. Let's see what we do. Hey, Mark, you're a sissy. Take a breath. Ground in, look around. And then agree. Agree. Yeah, you're right, Bill. I am a sissy. Hey, those are cool sneakers. Where'd you get those? Study after study shows that when you agree with someone who's saying something to you like that, they don't expect it. They expect you to resist it. They expect you to go, no, I'm not. But if you go, yeah, you're right, I am, and then you change the subject. Hey, did you get the homework from Mrs. Jones? Right? Or I could have said, yeah, you're right, I am a sissy. Hey, Bill, you're buff. Could you teach me how to work out? He probably would have helped me. Because if I give him a good feeling, if I literally stop his attack by agreeing and then turn my attention to him in a positive way, I've just given him what he really wanted. Because maybe he was feeling unsafe or insecure or didn't feel good about himself, and he was trying to make himself feel better at my expense because I was safe to pick on him because he knew he could beat me in a fight. But if I had said, listen, Bill, you know what, you're right, I am a sissy, and it's really bothering me, I wish I was stronger, and you seem really strong, could you teach me how to do that? What am I doing? I'm admiring him and giving him a sincere compliment. Does that feel good or bad? Good. So I just made him feel good in a positive way, right? Do you think you could do this? This is something that needs practice. We have to practice this. But the thing is, we don't have a choice. Somehow we have to figure out how to get along. And it would have been really interesting in the most recent presidential debates as Mrs. Clinton and Mr. Trump were saying mean things about each other. What if they just agreed with each other? What if Donald said, yeah, you're right. That is true about me. Hey, Hillary, I really admire the job you did as the Secretary of State. And she says, Trump, I really admire the fact that you came back from being $9 billion in debt. That's really good. They could have just given each other compliments, It wasn't ever going to happen in that situation. But in your life, what if you tried this? So let's do it again. Take a breath, everybody in. Swirl the front of your forehead, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then down. On your body, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then up the back of your body and ground in. I worked with the 4th grader. Keep breathing, nice and slow and quietly. I worked with a 4th grader who had a speech challenge. And he was also in a private boys' school over near Albany, New York. And he was having a hard time because he could not get his words out, right? He was a smart kid, but he couldn't somehow connect the part of his brain that connected with his mouth. And so some kids were kind of teasing him. And they weren't even teasing him hard, but he was taking it pretty hard because if you have a challenge like that, it goes with you everywhere. And so I taught him just this one thing. And before I taught it to him, I kind of nudged him a little bit, and he was like this. But after I taught it to him, he was solid. He was rock solid. And the next week he went to school. Nobody bothered him. He didn't do any fancy techniques. He didn't have to agree with anybody or do any of that stuff. All he did was breathe and ground and move his eyes. And the bullying stopped. Why did it stop? Yeah. You don't know? That's okay. Anybody? Why did it stop? Why do you think it stopped? The bullies got bored, and that's a cool thing. If you don't give them what they want, they tend to get bored and go away. I think it stopped because he was grounded. He wasn't in his fear place. He was solid and grounded. So just this one thing can help you no matter where you go. So I urge you to practice it.